Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pwnery's Week in Review, episode 20. Jesus, we've almost been doing this for half a year. Does it even feel like that? Anyway, we're going to do a slightly condensed show today, and the reason being, I'll explain shortly. But just to give a proper plug, this is my opening intro music by a DJ named Scott Allen. Might want to look him up on like the YouTubes or the Spotifys because this guy is a very rare talent. Anyway, as usual, I have my panelists, and I have one today because the other one is actually on a road trip, a real estate road trip. And probably by about this time, he's just hitting the Missouri border. So there won't be a Tony today, but I've got a Scott.
Yeah, I'm slightly less grumpy.
Well, collectively, you and I will have to be we can make up the crotchety part, I think, between the two of us.
Yeah.
So,
probably.
Yeah, on a positive note, no hangover, so that's already working against me being crotchety. But, I don't know, like, I think we're only going to run an hour today. The stories I do have, there are 5, but they're sort of like quick and dirties, so it's going to be slightly abbreviated just because I have a mountain of stuff to do today. So what I think we'll do is I don't really have a personal week in review this week. Like, not a lot happened. And I don't think you had anything like to note, right? Like nothing really surprising or awesome happened this week, right?
No, I ordered another gun. That's about it.
So, as like a Laurel and Hardy type situation, see, Scott still gets to order guns. I had to stop. My reason is winter is coming, and I'm starting to store nuts for the winter, which is just metaphorically speaking. But there wasn't a lot that I wanted to buy this year. SHOT Show only had 2 guns that I was interested in, and I still can't get either one. So there's nothing I really wanted to buy. So instead of getting something modern this year, I went nuts with milsurps, as many of you know. And I'm at the point now where I ran out of space on the wall, and I still have probably half a dozen rifles in cases waiting for me to do this old GATS on. I am happy to say that all the parts for the Swedish Mauser is finally here. Apex finally got my order in. And I could definitely see the difference between an M38 sight and a 96 Swedish Mauser. They're definitely different. They're way thinner. So I've got that. I got to install it, but I don't have the slider for it. So it's probably going to be stuck at 100 yard zero for a while, which is fine. I mean, I could always opt out and get that target sight that has a rotating knob with a plunger. It's $125 though, so it's like I can't justify the cost. But if this gun shoots really well, I'll treat it with one. I'm pretty sure. But for now, I'm kind of on a spending freeze because I'm sort of planning on getting another house and not selling this one. So if I do that, my finances are going to be stretched. I'll say stretched is probably the best way to put it. But as part of my nondescript week in review, it sort of kind of pushed me into the direction of, well, if you really want to pick up birds, you really need to build your own nest. So I'm going to end up leaving this place to my mom and dad because, he's 86 and she's 70 now. And they don't really have the means to move. So I will just leave them this place. And then someday, if they're not around, then I can decide to either sell it or rent it out to somebody else. But in the meantime, I have to get another place for myself because I'm trying to, be bona fide, I guess is a good way to put it. Regardless of how crazy this woman is driving me, but that's another story. So anyway, yeah, you get to buy things, I don't. I decided that I'm probably just going to finish accessorizing the stuff I have, which are, generally low dollar items. The only thing I'm really waiting on today is my scope rings for my Swiss 1889 rifle. But Pwnery, 1889 Swiss rifles didn't have scope mounts. Well, guess what? They do now. Um, I found a company called Swiss Products USA. They're in a little town called Kalispell, Montana, which is just outside of Missoula, and they specialize in accessories and aftermarket parts for Swiss rifles. And the really cool thing about this particular scope mount is everything is machined to Swiss or German standards. It's very tight and it looks good and it doesn't interfere with anything on the rifle, and it it's completely reversible. So the way this particular mount attaches is you take out the two action screws on either side of the magazine, and they provide you with two bushings and two lengthened cap screws with Allen heads, and the tool, and the mount. And it sort of acts like a crag. The mount bolts from underneath and it taco shells around the left side of the rifle to a 3/8 inch dovetail rail. And I had ordered it, I think it was Monday, or maybe it was Saturday, last Saturday, and it didn't ship till Monday. But the reason I got it was because I have this really neat all pro adjustable 3x9 scope, and I put one of those rubber eye cups on it. And originally it was on my 1903 Springfield, but the problem with that is the scope tube was so thick that the bolt handle would hit it on the way back, so I couldn't really use it. I like large optics, like 40 millimeter, 52s, 56s, things like that. Especially on these longer, older guns, they look more proportionally correct. So on my Springfield, it was a sporter built off of a bunch of parts that I had, and I ended up having to only run a 32 millimeter on that one. And strangely enough, the 32 I bought for it, it has no adjustability. Like, it's just a fine line crosshair, and you set it up on the mount, and what you have is what you get. There's no windage or elevation adjustment for it, because it originally came with a different type of mount, where the mount gave you the windage and elevation adjustments, and I didn't need it, so I just used it for the glass, or for the scope itself. And honestly, I mean, if it's line of sight accurate, but it's, high or low, that's no big deal. I can make up for that, So like I can just Kentucky elevation that. I'm not really worried about that. That, and I'm really not shooting that Springfield much anyway. Like, I've got it, but I don't have any desire to shoot it, to be honest. Like, I just built it as a exercise. But it is finished, which is cool. So, let's see, what was I going to do? Oh yeah, so the reason we're doing a short show today. Yesterday, if you were in the lobby for Working Stiffs, you probably heard me being a grumpy, angry bear, because it was 90 degrees in October in Houston. 90. And then on the way home from work, I got stuck in a traffic jam in my neighborhood, less than 3/4 of a mile from my house, because somebody decided to get into a minor accident. The person that was involved pulled over. The other person pulled over in front of the car that pulled over, and that he hit. Got out and sprayed the front windshield of the other car, killing one of the passengers, and then the driver was the driver was life flighted and died on the way to the hospital, and the passenger was taken and is in critical condition. And the shooter is still at large, like right in my neighborhood. They blocked the entire intersection, and then they coned off, they yellow taped off the entire intersection, and then they coned off every street 1 block away from it, because it was an active crime scene. And what's kind of bizarre is everybody in my neighborhood has cameras, and yet nobody had footage of it, including the intersection light. It has traffic cams. Nobody caught it. Nothing was pictured. I'm like, that's kind of weird. So anyway, today I woke up and there's no clouds. There's a little bit of wind, and it's 66 degrees outside. So every single thing that I've been putting off since July is about to get done today, as long as it involves me having to be outside. And one of those things I hope I can do is finally get my AR-10 and put it back together and take it over to the outdoor range and start taking some gun porn pictures for all of you guys, because that is a rifle that I built as a dare, and I was very proud of how it turned out because I picked every single part that I wanted and I spared no expense on it. And it's a monster. I mean, this thing is like, if you go and Google up the specifications for an M60, it's the exact same length and it weighs almost as much as one that's empty. And that's with, I think, with a 20 round steel mag. It weighs 19 pounds. It's huge. But 24-inch barrel, Aero Precision M5 lower and upper, Lilja target crowned, they call it the M2 heavy barrel profile barrel. So they didn't machine down the first third of the barrel. It's a beast. And then the second third is machined down to what you would consider a heavy barrel. And then the last third is cut down with lengthwise flutes with a concave target crown on the end of it. So it doesn't have a muzzle device. It's 24 inches long. The barrel alone weighs like 8 pounds. It's huge. And then I went and I put an Atlas II bipod on it, and I think the scope I used is a Vortex Sonora. I think that's the one I put the Sonora on. But as an ensemble, it's fantastic looking. I mean, it's got a skeleton stock. You know, it's got the foam across the top tube. My coworker George had one of those, and I really liked it. And I actually built this 308 mainly as like what I call an Overwatch rifle. It's not a run and gun, clearly. It's, you know, front to back, it's like 38 inches long. It's huge. But, you know, you set up at a distance or up on a wall or something, or just, you know, long distance target shooting. That's exactly what I built it for, and I think it fits that profile perfectly. So I'd like to go out and take that out today because I'm sitting on like, I don't know, 2,000 rounds of Lake City 308 that I bought years ago that I still haven't fired a single round of. And my only concern is I'm pretty sure everybody is already at the range and every lane's already taken because people aren't idiots and they check the weather and they're like, that's the day I'm going to do it. So they're probably all there already. But I'm stuck here because I'm doing the show right now. So I couldn't get in there early. And I probably didn't want to anyway because of dew and mosquitoes and whatever, right? But I'm still planning on trying to do that today. Plus I have to fix my living room. Plus I have to wash my dogs. Plus I might take them out for a walk. Plus I still need to go drop or take the top off of my car and drop it off at my friend's garage because I don't have a garage. So he was like, oh, just leave it here. So I got to do that, which means I have to assemble the stand. Plus, I see a lot of pluses. Plus, I need to go buy a new floor jack. I got to lift up the front of the car. I finally got to, you know, replace the sway bar, the end links that have been broken for a year. I should do the tie rod ends, but I really don't want to right now. And oh yeah, I gotta get the car inspected too. I forgot to put that on the list. So all that plus my regular weekend shenanigans. Yeah, I'm not going to have time. So if I can get half of that done today, that'd be a small victory. That's why we're doing a short show today, despite the fact that I've already burned 15 minutes. So, let's go ahead, since we did all the bullshit and pushed it out of the way already. Oh, actually, you know what? If I have time, if everything else gets screwed up today, I think I will reassemble the Swedish Mauser, which means I will film this old GAT, and I can spend tomorrow maybe editing it for a release. That is definitely on the itinerary because I've got all the parts now, and I kind of want to get it together. All right, so now that we've got all that nonsense out of the way, let me see. Am I forgetting anything? No. Okay, so welcome to autumn. At least if you're in Southeast Texas, you finally have it and enjoy it. Let's get started with the news because I've got 5 stories for you. They're going to be sort of like quick and dirty. Just we're going to get in, get out, We'll talk about it a little bit. I'm most of the stories I picked. The theme today is God, Pwnery, stop being such a cynical asshole. Because that's kind of the mood I've been in for about 3 weeks. Oh, you know what? I will share part of that. So the reason I've been this way for the last 3 weeks is I've lost 20 pounds in 19 days, which I needed to anyway. But the reason I lost it sort of sucks. And I went to, I don't know if I covered this last week or not. I went to my boxing gym and I took my frustrations out on the heavy bag. The heavy bag was held by the middleweight champion of the world, Jamal Charlo. I was like, cool. Um, but I was kind of in a rush. Like I taped my right hand properly, but I was in a hurry when I was taping my left hand. And I hit this bag with a left hook. The first time, fine. I hit it with a right hook, and I actually knocked the guy off his feet. And then when he got back up and he held the bag, I came at it again with another left, and then he could tell that I hit it real light. And he looks around the bag and he sees me shaking my hand. So he takes me to the gym doctor. They do a general, X-ray on my hand, and I had a compression fracture on my index finger on my left hand, right where I missed, taping it properly. So that happened. My trainer from before, who's still there, threw me out. He was like, don't come back for at least 3 weeks. I came back a couple days later, he threw me out again. Came back a couple days after that. I just said, look, I just want to hang out. So they let me hang out. I met this guy. He's a prospect heavyweight. He's only 19, and he is 6'4", 255 pounds. Big dude. And he was doing the same type of training I used to do, because I think my trainer is working with him. But he gets these Velcro on wrist weights, and then he gets the Velcro ankle weights. And he was wearing the 2-pound weights on each wrist, and behind that, he was wearing 7-pound ankle weights on his forearms. And he was wearing 13-pound ankle weights on his ankles. And he was doing a sparring session with all of that on. And I couldn't tell that his speed was affected. Like, he was sparring at normal speed. And I just looked and I'm like, Jesus, that guy is Herculean. And so I talked to my trainer, and the guy's going to enter like an amateur heavyweight contest. And right now he's only a 6-round fighter, but his record is four wins, 0 losses, all 4 wins by knockout. All 4 knockouts happened in the second round. Like, he toys with people in the first to figure them out, and then he just knocks them out. So the guy's definitely got talent. But the best part was he took the weights off, and then he did another sparring session, and he was so fast, I thought he was a middleweight. Like, that guy is going to be scary, which was cool. Anyway, yeah, so I broke my hand. I got to see, somebody training the same way I trained, which is cool. And so when I got home, I reordered all the weights. So my challenge starting today, when they get here, is I'm going to have 2 pounds on each wrist and 13 pounds on each ankle. And this is good exercise for anybody, by the way. If you're trying to do cardio or stamina, or even there is some benefit to building muscle mass even with this on, even though this is more like a long-term exercise. Get up in the morning, handle your particulars. As you're getting ready to walk out the door, or even when you first get out of bed, put the weights on. Put them on your wrist, put them on your ankles, then start handling your particulars. And the trick to it is you want to try to function like you normally do. Meaning, even though you've got heavy weights on your body, try to just walk normal. Try just to like grab and lift your coffee cup normally. Do everything as functionally normal as possible, fighting the weight the entire time. That way, you're doing sort of like core strength because anyone can just lift something and drop it. But if you can controllably lift it, hold it, put it back down, finesse your movements as if you were just being regular, everyday motion, that builds a lot of strength. It also will make you sleep like a dead body at the end of the day, which is great. But yeah, I'm gonna start doing that, and then I'd say probably after dinner time, I'll take all the weights off. The first time I actually did this exercise, my trainer put me on 7-pound ankle weights, and I went through the whole day, got to the gym, then he let me take them off, and then he wanted me to do a lap around the gym. I took one step and fell flat on my face because my feet felt so light with the weights off. It takes a little getting used to once you take the weights off, but it's stuck with me for almost 25 years, and it still works. Like the only weight that I really needed to lose is in the midsection because middle age. It's sort of like if you're hunting a deer, right? And you look at the deer, you can tell roughly how old it is. If you catch a side profile of a deer and he's a buck with antlers, and you see like the rib cage, and then it tapers sharply upward towards his flanks and his loin and his crotch. If it tapers upward nice and tight, it's probably a young buck. But like most of you who hunt, you know this already. You catch one that's sideways and his rib cage all the way to his back legs is roughly the same height. Potbelly, right? First of all, semi good eating, right? Pretty good weight. But you can tell it's a middle-aged deer because he's got weight around the midsection. Human beings are the same way. You can keep your abdomen tight, but it's a lot harder to do, at my age. So I'm trying to get back into that because I'm tired of feeling the way I feel physically. I've had this nagging pectoral issue for almost 4 years now, and I went through all the battery tests, and doctors couldn't find anything wrong with me. Like I thought I had a heart condition. I was taking amlodipine, which opens up all your blood vessels, and I don't know if it helped or if I was just getting the placebo effect, but I felt better when I took them. So I took them for about 8 months, and then they X-rayed, they CT scanned, they did the whole 9 yards. They ultrasounded, and they were like, "Your heart's fine. You don't have cancer. Um, your bone structure looks okay." They couldn't find nothing wrong. And then I went to another place. It was like a hospital of sports medicine, and I described my problem, and they couldn't find anything wrong. And then one day, George, my coworker, my warehouse guy, very physical labor he does, and he told me he had a doctor's appointment. So I was like, "What's it for?" And he pointed down at a roughly the same area that I'm dealing with, and he goes, "I got this pain here, and I just can't get rid of it, and it really hurts." And I'm like, "How long have you had it?" And he goes, "A couple of weeks." And I said, "So what did your doctor find?" And he goes, "I had tore a pectoral muscle, and it rolled up slightly, and it reattached itself in the healing process to the wrong part of my body. So what was happening is his muscle was constantly in a state of tension, pulling on other parts of his musculature, causing this discomfort." And I'm like, "So how do you fix that?" And he said, "Well, they're gonna cut me down the side of my rib cage. They're gonna go in there. They're gonna cut that muscle free, and cut all the scar tissue and muscles that grew around it out, because you can't reattach those. They're not even supposed to be there. So they were basically like just cutting meat off of him, and then they're gonna take the one piece that was healed incorrectly and reattach it in the proper spot." And then he had to go back for getting dressings changed and his drains and all this other stuff. And he's got a follow-up appointment coming up soon, and they're going to touch up on it or whatever. But he says it feels a lot better. So I'm going to go see his doctor about, maybe I have something similar, because I stopped working out because of it. I thought I had a genuine problem, but if I've had it for 4 years and it hasn't killed me yet, it's probably nothing serious. But it hurts. It's a nagging pain. And I already contacted his doctor and I told him what was going on. He goes, "It sounds pretty familiar. I can check you out." And I'm like, "Since I know it's not gonna kill me, can I go back to working out?" And he was like, "Well, three things will happen. One, if you wait too long and you come to me, they're gonna have to take more improperly grown muscle out of you." And I said, "Okay, what's the other thing?" And he goes, "You might get lucky and tear that muscle free again, and then come see me and I can reattach it." And I thought, "Oh." So we'll see. That's another reason why I have to save my nickels and dimes, because that's not a cheap surgery, and it's in a ritzy part of town. So go figure. Anyway, I don't know why.
Bicep.
It's my pec. It's the spot. Like, if I used to tell people it was like the Grim Reaper was poking me in this one specific spot on my chest, and I'm touching it as I'm saying this to you. And what's funny is where I'm touching is where most people with a heart condition point to. But I can feel it on the outside of the rib. Whatever it is, it's on the external part, not behind the ribs. It's in front of it. So I know it's not a heart issue. It's just coincidentally in the same spot. And if I follow this rib, the whole rib itself feels thicker than every rib above it or below it. So another theory is that it broke and it had kept healing and getting thicker and thicker and thicker because I kept re-breaking it during the healing process. But the x-ray never caught it, which I'm baffled by that. But if I follow it, there's muscle in there plus the bone, and it's about 2 inches above my nipple, and it goes down the length of my chest under my arm, and that's where it stops. So I've got one of those like muscle beatdown gun things that you see on TV, but I've got one built from the 1970s. I've got two of them actually, and the only reason I use that is because they still work, so why not? So I literally meat tenderize my left side of my upper body like every day, like 3 or 4 times a day. It takes some of the ache out of it. And then I got to do these stupid stretches, which is like doing push-ups on cinder blocks where your center of your body goes below the midline. That feels really good. Like, I do that, it hurts while I'm doing it, but as soon as I like rebound and stand up straight, it feels awesome. So I know it's something muscle related. It has to be. Anyway, sorry, I tangented like crazy. So the first story I've got to you today, or for you today, comes from Norway. That's right, the Scandinavian countries, and it's about a terror attack that, if I remember right, it killed 5 and wounded 2. And I gotta admit, the guy in that picture looks like, was it Paul Giamatti? It looks just like him with a beard. Anyway, um, yeah, so there was a terror attack in Norway, 2 days ago? I think it was 2 days ago. It looked like it happened sometime, I want to say it happened early in the morning, but it might have been late at night because a lot of the coverage and photos are in the dark. And apparently, the person who has been arrested is a Norwegian citizen. Like when you hear terror attack, as much as I hate to admit this, um, you usually profile a certain type of individual in your head. It's just human nature. You see it every day. When it comes back up, you instantly go, well, how many Q's are in his last name, or who is he a bin of, or whatever, right? I mean, it's just we've been culturally beaten down by the same type of terror for what, 30 years at least. So when I read the story originally, naturally that's what I thought, and then it said Danish citizen. I said, what? And I think his name is right there at the bottom of that screenshot that I'm sharing with you. Yeah, Espen Andersen Brathen. That's a healthy Norwegian name, isn't it? Problem is he converted to the very thing that most of us would profile, and then
And that
obviously
people
it
that
says he's been.
actually
Hmm.
convert
Yeah.
are more religious than the actual people that are born with it as
Uh,
a religion.
Yes, and I have a theory on that, but you're
Well,
right.
born again Christians.
Well, sort of. So it's like this dude converts and then he's, quote, radicalized, right? And what I think what that really boils down to is you are being used like a pawn. They accept you into their faith, quote, I'm quoting that, but at the end of the day, you will never be equal in their eyes because they're just going to use you as a puppet. Like it's one less of their people or their group that they have to sacrifice in the name of whatever they're doing. They'll just use somebody else. It's like outsourcing labor, right? And that's kind of what I'm thinking happens to a lot of these guys, the ones that become radicalized.
Use, low intelligence people for suicide bombers.
That or they make promises and arrangements for financial freedom for their family or their children or whatever. Like there's always that promise. But then again, I used to joke that the 72 virgins in paradise thing was a jab at, well, it's not really 72 virgins. What it is it's 71 other idiots who fell for the same trick. Enjoy your sausage fest. It seems like every time I do one of these shows at the same time of day, my stupid dogs go crazy. Every Saturday. Oh well. If you guys can't hear it, that's fine. But yeah, so the reason I brought this story up was actually because of hyperbole. And I was wondering, will Norway call for more bow control? Will there be waiting periods on arrows? Will you have to do a background check for crossbow string or fletchings or arrowheads? Because if I'm not mistaken, Norway's gun laws are pretty tight already, which is probably why this guy used what he used. And it just plays into our point that you can take away the tool, but you will never take away evil. And what's the point of disarming the innocent and making them more vulnerable to evil? And that's my underlying question is that will they do something as crazy as bow control, or you need a license to have it, or you have to have a background check to buy the string? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're still not going to stop the evil. You're just making it harder for people to function normally with tools that are used every day. I mean, think about if this guy actually went on this rampage, I don't know, with a hammer, right? Are they gonna stop selling hammers? Or are they gonna like make you do a psychological evaluation before you can buy one? Anything can be made into a killing device. Ask, was it Abel? Like the story of Cain and Abel, right? Anything can be used as a killing device. It's like that it's like that meme. It's a crochet of a bird on a tree and it just says anything's a dildo if you're brave enough. It's the same idea. Like you can use anything to kill somebody if you had to, or if you wanted to, or if you're evil. So
People
what's the
will
point?
still find a way to kill people.
Yeah, I mean that's what it boils down to, literally. So we'll go from bows to knives. So yeah, I believe this was yesterday. British lawmaker David Ames, uh, parliamentary lawmaker, he went to a church in Essex, and he went to go speak to his constituents, and a 25-year-old dude walked in and stabbed him to death. And the thing is once again, here we are. This is in a like a Christian church type thing, right? And somebody walks into it and murders this guy in broad daylight. You have an idea of who that is, or what he belongs to, because we've been conditioned to profile just out of habit. It's not out of hatred, it's out of habit, because it's like if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it stabs you with a knife in a church. Just saying. But here's the difference between Norway and the good old-fashioned jolly old UK. They identify the age of the person. They did not release his name. They will not tell you what he is, or who he is, or where he's from. But he had been arrested on what they quote, suspicion of murder. I'm sorry. If you got caught by the bobbies and you're covered in blood and you're probably still holding the knife, I don't think it's suspicion of murder. I'm pretty sure you murdered somebody. And to be brutally honest, killing somebody with a blade, that falls into the same category as strong arm assault. So for instance, if you got into a fight with somebody at a bar and you get mad and you grab a pool table stick and you smack them in the back with it, you'll be charged with assault. You'll go to jail, you'll have your day in court, you'll pay a fine, you'll probably have to go do probation, the whole 9 yards. However, if you were into a fight at the bar and you reach and grab the guy and drag him out of his chair and beat 7 levels of hell out of him where he swallowed half of his teeth and he's choking on his own blood, that's called strong arm assault. You used your bare hands on somebody, not an implement. That carries much higher penalties in the eyes of the law because it's a much more evil form of violence because you're not using an implement to make your violence easier. You're in a rage. So this guy, he uses a knife. That sort of falls under a gray area between, well, you could have just shot him, right? But he didn't because UK gun laws are insane. So he used a knife. And if you've ever seen a crime scene where somebody had been attacked with a knife, it is messy. Like you stab the guy once, he's not going to die. Unless you hit him in just the right spot. But he's not going to sit still and let you do that. He's going to fend off and fight you. You're probably going to slash his arms a few times and, whatever. There's going to be blood and viscera everywhere. So, like, if you're a cop and you walk in and you catch this guy in that scene, I'm pretty sure it's not suspicion of murder. I'm pretty sure it's obvious what it is. So what do? I mean, they've already got knife control. They literally have knife control in England. They have drop boxes for knives.
Knives over a certain size have to have a blunted tip.
Yeah, they have stipulations for blade length. I think they have a waiting period for certain types of blades. I mean, what's gonna boil down to is you're gonna have to do a psych evaluation and a background check and a 10-day waiting period to buy the knife set at IKEA that you want to get your wife for your anniversary. It will come down to this. Imagine if somebody had used a chainsaw. So something similar must have happened like this because once upon a time, you can go into Lowe's or Home Depot and the chainsaws would just be sitting there on a pegboard. You just pick one up, put it in your hands and see how it feels, right? Nowadays, they're behind a metal cage with a padlock on it. You have to wait for somebody to come over there, unlock it, and hand it to you. So, yeah, apparently this is a thing. Are they going to do that in the UK?
That's the thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're going to walk into IKEA in the UK, are all the knives going to be behind a big piece of plate glass? You can't even touch it? And then you have to wait for somebody to come up to you and go, I'd like to have that knife set. And he hands you a form to fill out and says, come back in 10 days? You're not going to stop evil.
Wait, Bed Bath Beyond lately?
Huh?
Have you been into a Bed Bath Beyond lately?
Honestly can't say I have, no.
Knives are in a nice little display case.
I could believe that, sure. Especially
Sets
because you've got
grab.
kids in that store a lot.
They have the closed sets that you can grab in a
Yeah.
box, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all the display knives are in a locked case.
I can believe that. I mean, I know it's going to sound cliche, but think of the children. Kids can climb the shelves and grab one, maybe hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. I can understand that to a degree. But I understand where you're going with this too. Because they might just do that to everybody. Lock it to adults, lock it to children, lock it to everybody. And yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. how's the saying go? Those who, those who deny liberty for security don't deserve either, right? It's kind of the same principle. Anyway, knife control
Close.
coming to UK, even more. Right after the doctor for the Queen said you need to cut back on cocktails. I bet she fucking I bet when her physician told her, ma'am, Your Majesty, you should really cut back on the cocktails. I bet she just looked at him and goes, "Dog's bollocks, get him out of my sight." And then sipped on her Johnny Walker fucking Diamond Jubilee. That's $325,000 a bottle. Ask me how I know. So, okay, real story now. Real time story. The Supreme Court is about to listen to its first real gun control case in 10 years. There have been little minor skirmishes and little victories all over the country. I mean, look at Texas. We finally got constitutional carry as of September 1st, enacted since September 1st. I've carried my pistols proudly outside the waistband every day since. And I can tell you, after, 46 days of this being enacted, life is just normal. I mean, nothing's changed. Now, the first, week, I felt kind of weird doing it, but most of it was just because I had to get used to the weight on my hip again. And the other thing is I've realized that some of my shirts are they're cut a little short, so they don't drape over my holster very well. Um, but like one time I went into a Kroger and this lady was trying to reach on the top shelf, so I reached up and I grabbed her thing and I handed it to her. And right on the other side of the aisle, I heard this little kid go, "Mommy, he's got a golden gun." And then I realized, oh, he must have saw it because he's down low and I'm up high grabbing something and my shirt pulled up. The lady I grabbed the thing for, she was cool with it. She was like, "Thanks," and she just wandered off, like no big deal, right? But I heard the mom of the kid go, or kind of give me a look, and I looked at her. I'm like, "I'm not Scaramanger," and she busted out laughing. That instantly broke the tension. So she knew who the man with the golden gun was, which is cool. Yesterday, as I was standing in front of the pump, thanking the commander-in-chief for making me pay $54 for a tank of gas, there were these two people. I think it was like a younger black couple, and they had rented a U-Haul van, and he was filling up the van. He was standing outside pumping the van. She was leaning over the driver's door arguing with him the whole time. And I thought, wow, you're in good, bro. You're in real good. I'm getting my gas, and usually what I do is I sort of turn into a teapot. I put one hand on my hip, put my other hand on the pump handle, lock it, and then I just lean my hand up against the trunk lid because my car sits real low to the ground. So I look like a teapot, with the arm crooked out and the other arm sticking out. And I heard this lady very quietly go, Clive, he got a gun." And he he didn't skip a beat. He was like, "Who gives a shit, woman?" So that felt good. But anyway, yeah, so the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. And what this is it's a pending case that's about to be heard. It's on the docket. It's ready to go. And I think the opening arguments are going to start they either started yesterday or they're going to start Monday. That's why I brought this up. But they're finally going to look into, I guess, what you would consider May issue, right? Where they pick and choose. I always get May and shall backwards, but they're going to start they're going to scrutinize New York's carry laws. Because, in all honesty, to get a carry license in the city of New York is damn near impossible. And in most parts of New York, it's sort of like joining the club. You have to be selected, and you have to give a reason. You have to give a justifiable reason why you think you should get a carry permit. Now, I'm sorry, but if I lived in New York and I had to get that question and I had to answer it, if I was sitting face to face with somebody, I think my answer would be, They would say, well, why do you need a carry license in the state of New York? I don't know. Why do I breathe air every 2 minutes? Why do I mow the grass when it gets too tall? Oh, I know why. Because it's my fucking constitutional right. How about that? So they're looking into that, and with any hope, maybe something good will come of it, which would be great. Especially if you live in New York, John Z. Um, yeah. Or New York Outcast. Yeah. Bet you guys
Yeah, I was
would.
waiting for that one.
Bet you guys would love to be able to do what I do here in Texas.
Well,
Enjoy all the freedoms.
there's also bigger implications at play there.
How so?
Because if they roll against New York,
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii is fucked.
Well, yes.
Because Hawaii does not issue carry permits.
A lot
They
of
haven't
states don't.
issued a single one in 30 years.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, like you're right. You get the one case that's one at the Supreme Court level, and that is the final snowflake that starts an avalanche. Every other state with a similar situation will say, "Hey, what about me?" And then they got to deal with those. And like it'll snowball out, it'll have a snowball
Well,
effect.
no. If they roll against New York,
Yeah.
that will be the law of the land. It
Instantly?
has instantly.
So nobody has to argue it from another state.
Nope. Every
Well, that's
other
fine.
state's law is invalidated.
That's fine. So, okay. Then there needs to be a Supreme Court case that simply states that the Second Amendment is as clear as day, shall not be infringed, means you will not throw barriers in front of law abiding citizens, and that the NFA, the GCA, the Hughes Amendment, and every law that makes it harder for a citizen to protect themselves is null and void. Overnight. Like, let's have a Supreme Court with the guts to take a case like that.
They won't, though.
No, they won't. I mean, it took them 10 years just to do this one, right?
Yep.
It'd be cool if they would, though.
The Supreme Court is very hesitant to rule on 2A cases. That's why they take them so freaking rarely.
It's there. Yeah, there's three things that they generally will not touch: guns, abortions, and religion. Which is funny
politics.
because it's not politics in general, so they don't really touch those unless it's very specific to a constitutionally criminal matter. But it's like, you think about it, the Supreme Court is supposed to answer the two things you're not supposed to talk about at work: religion and politics. Politics being abortion and guns. Anyway. Wow, we're getting through these pretty quick. This next story is sort of local if you're a Texan. Very local if you're Patrick. There was a school shooting. And these are never good. However, this one had as positive of an outcome as you could expect. Nobody died. The weapon was captured. The weapon was found. The perpetrator was captured and apprehended and went quietly. He didn't put up a fight and get shot. The people that he did wound all appear to that they will be able to survive their ordeal physically. And gun control nuts didn't lose their minds like lunatics. And the reason is, again, profiling, sort of. But the part that's really bizarre to me is the story I'm about to present to you should, and may still happen, be a NeverEnuffAmmo rant video. Except instead of, well, I'll just call it for what it is. Go fund yourself. Huh? Right? See, a little different this time. So this guy here, I'm not even showing you his picture, but this guy here, his family had started up a GoFundMe page for his legal defense. And they said that because their son was robbed and traumatized, that they're doing this. And he did what he did. Now, I'm sorry, but if you were robbed at gunpoint and stripped of your possessions at school, as the story says, Why didn't you go to the police? Why didn't you go to the principal? Why didn't you go to the resource officer immediately and identify your attacker? Never happened. So I'm going to call bullshit. The other weird part was, so he fled the scene. He ditched the gun 6 miles west of the shooting location. They found it. They searched for him for half the day. They found him. So they got him. He was released on bail that day. Now,
And tell them how much it was.
so in Texas, your bail is 10% of the set number. Meaning, if it's a $10,000 bail, you have to pay $1,000. His bail for, first of all, illegally possessing a firearm, handgun, underage, in a school, with the intent to kill people, shooting for $75,000. He was let out for $7,500. Back to the custody of his parents. The day he was arrested, where he could have potentially killed 4 people, maybe more. Got out. Where are the parents of that school board? Where are the voters for that county's district attorney? Why are you not frothing mad yet? So anyway, GoFundMe page was raised. They wanted to raise $25,000 for their son's defense. Now, first of all, the charges you're about to face and the legal defense you will need, $25,000 is barely the retainer you're going to need. They collected $150 and enough people complained that GoFundMe shut down the page immediately. So, go fund yourself is what they're saying. We're not going to be any part of that. And I think they're absolutely in the right for this. I don't care if you've been robbed and had your possessions stolen, okay? I had been robbed 3 times up to my 28th birthday. Okay? I was armed robbery victim 3 times. Gun in my face. I had survived all 3 odds. Like, you can get killed for a chicken sandwich, in my city if they're hungry and crazy enough. I lost a watch 1 time. I lost my class ring another time, and I lost my wallet the 3rd time. And that's when I decided to start carrying. By my 29th birthday, I had ordered my first carry pistol. And my mentality behind it is I was never against guns. I was fascinated by them. I just thought it was a game that I couldn't afford to play in. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not building hot rods and 4x4s anymore. I've got a lot of money for this. I can do this. So yeah, I got into guns because of that. I thought if I was going to meet my maker after playing the odds 3 times, I want to be on equal footing with my attacker. That's why I got into it. But you didn't see me go to my school and shoot it up. You didn't see me go into a grocery store and shoot it up because I got robbed. That's what he did is still inexcusable in the eyes of the law. Like, I don't care how traumatic the experience was. Go talk to somebody as soon as it happens and try to get legal satisfaction. Don't take it out in a vengeance hit for perfectly innocent people in your classroom. Like, did any of those people ever be identified as the person who robbed him? No. Did they ever mention that? No. Did they bury the story? Yes.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you why. Just go look up the guy's name. I'll tell you
Or
why they
picture.
buried it. Because it doesn't fit a certain narrative. Anyway, he's going to have his day in court. I think he's facing like 25 years or something. It's going to be pretty stiff. All right, so my final story of the day for you. I'll give you a little backstory to it. You got something? Scott? No?
I'm at your bud.
Oh, okay. I'll give you a little bit of backstory before I show you this one, but There was it was my understanding that this guy was a California liberal police chief, and he left California and he took a job in the city of Houston as police chief of Houston because Houston, unfortunately, is a blue city. I can't deny it. It's a blue city. It's run by Democrats, radical ones. And so they hired this guy. And as police chief, during his tenure and under his watch, uh, there was a spike in crime, and there was even a botched raid that got two innocent people killed and a dog. And so he decided that he was going to leave. My work here is done, as he stands over the burning embers of what was once a good city. Oh, Jaime's here. Sort of. But anyway, he decided that he was going to leave and take up a new job. And he was going to head to Miami. So he did. Now, his name is Art Acevedo. And he developed a reputation here in Houston that gave him the name Art Kiss My Ass-evedo. And he ended up in Miami. He took the job. And within 6 weeks, he was fired. 6 weeks. And he was out. He,
Miami is full of Cubans, which
yeah.
typically are conservative.
Well, Acevedo apparently had a bias towards Cubans. Repeatedly. He's been reported repeatedly for basically picking on Cubans. So, the city of Miami had an emergency injunction meeting, essentially, and suspended him, and then fired him the following day. You see, they got it. They get it. This guy was he's an unhinged lunatic with like dystopian fantasies about how the world should be. And he had a badge and a superiority complex. Like if you ever watched any of his interviews when he was here in Houston, you just want to look at his fat head and just go, "You arrogant son of a bitch. You don't get to tell me what you're telling me, you know? You don't get that authority, whether you have a badge or not." Thankfully, he left before somebody forced him out. But in Miami, nah. 6 weeks, gone. Fuck out of here. I commend you, Miami. You did your own city a service by getting rid of that jerk off. And he can't come back to Houston because that job's already been filled. So for the rest of you guys out there watching, just remember the name Art Kiss My Ass-evedo, or Acevedo if you want to use his real name. Might be coming to a future liberal shithole near you. Because he's not retiring. He's probably just going to find another place to go screw up. It's just what he does. So anyway, those are my 5 stories. I know they weren't quite the meat and 2 veg portion that you're used to when it comes to the stories that I chose for the week. But I have to admit to you that I've been very distracted, and I couldn't put the effort required to give you a real deep look into these stories this week. I think my mentor told me this week, he said, "You sound like you had just come out of a 3-week coma," because it was when I talked to him yesterday, it was the first time that I was almost back to normal in terms of my well-being. And he was right. Like, I was in a fog for 3 weeks. I still am, sort of. But I didn't pay attention to any of the stories. Like, none. We had a set of storms that came through 3 days ago. And I thought that was the cold front. Because the storm head, like this long line, when you see a front pass in, that's what it looked like. It was thicker with heavier rain than usual, but it was this big rain band. And I thought, oh, that's the cold front. Came through, it was still 90 degrees. Next day, it was still 90 degrees. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
So I asked around, and people are like, no, that wasn't a cold front. That's not coming until Friday night. And I said, you're full of shit. I saw the storm head. And they're like, nah, dude, that was a hurricane. And I'm like, what? I never seen a hurricane the shape of a storm front. Well, because I hadn't been paying attention, there was a Pacific hurricane named Pamela, and it went across the mountains of Mexico and broke apart into a giant storm head instead of a swirling mass. And that's what passed through here. Strangely enough, it actually killed 2 people in Texas. So it must have been a pretty impressive storm. I didn't know. I just thought I was getting a cold front. Of course, I didn't care. I didn't care about anything for the last 3 weeks. But anyway, some of my friends, some who I speak to every day here in the lobby for Working Stiffs, they know what's going on with me, and I'm very grateful that they took the time to put up with my shit because I've been in a bad place for a while. Like, I'm not going to do anything stupid, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I don't get like this very often. I think the last time I was like this was almost 7 years ago, so that's, if you guys have ever seen the anime, it's called Helsing. Not Van Helsing, not the movies. It's an anime. There's a scene in there where um, Alucard has to basically disappear within his own self, and he's got to slay every soul he ever took to find himself in it. And it took him, I think it was, 30 something years towards the end of that story. They said that he was gone for 30 years or something. And then he comes back and he was like, I had to kill all of them. Until I could find who I was, I had to kill every demon I had in me. And I'm just like, I think everybody gets to that point at least once or twice in their life. And this was my third, so I think I came out of it okay. I'm not in jail. Nobody got hurt. My dogs are all in one piece, and no alphabets are kicking down my door. So I think I did all right. But anyway, yeah. Me being a psychology major, I focused on psychology of women and relationship therapy. So if you find yourself in sort of a funk like I've been in, I'm classically trained in dealing with that. I'm not going to charge you because I'm not licensed, but if you want to talk, uh, I'm available. So like, if you ever want to join this show or if you ever want to join the server, it's open to everybody. The email address is in the description below this video and all the other ones. Drop me an email. I'll send you an invite. We're here Monday through Friday, lobby for working stiffs, usually between 10 to 5 Central Time, and then when we do the shows. Um, I noticed nobody said this before, but you can see channels that some of you guys can't see because I have these personal channels for things that I do. So I can set that up for you. Also, if you want to host a show similar to the way I do it, I have a tutorial video series to show you how to set this up. I see that Jimmy James is actually in the chat, and I need to get in your ear to remind you how to reset your layout because you've got one hell of a delay and your screen share is kind of broken. So if you have the time sometime, I'll show you how to fix it. But yeah, if you guys want to host a show and you want to do something similar to what I do here, I have a series. I can teach you how to do it. It doesn't take very long. I'll even create you channels here on the server because my goal is, if you look at where it says stream channels to the left of these pictures here, my goal is to create a different form of what you would call gun channels, essentially. I would like to see a list of all these different shows underneath that one stream channel category, which would be great because that we would once again have a community hub of all of us, which would be awesome. And like I said, it's open invite. None of this stuff costs anything. It's free to use. It's easy to set up. It's 100% customizable. So just think about that next time you see somebody with a stupid duck in the top right corner of their video. You see any ducks in my video? No. You see any GoFundMe links? No. You know why? Because I go fund myself.
You
So,
drawing stupid cartoons either, so.
well, I Photoshop, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I did the one at the bottom right corner. So, actually, I need to find the person who drew my caricature because I haven't talked to them in over 10 years. I have some things I want to change, but if I can't, then I'll just keep using this one and just keep modifying it a bit. Anyway, what I want to do now is, let's see, what are you going to do for the rest of your week, Scott?
My rest of my weekend, same thing I do every weekend.
Could I make a
Hit up the
suggestion?
store.
Because I've been harping on you for it for months. So you go get your damn car fixed. Anyway.
Well, my insurance agent does not open on weekends.
Oh, that sucks. So anyway, y'all are, I did it in the beginning. Y'all know what I'm doing the rest of the weekend. I've got a whole list. And if you follow me on Facebook and you're on my friends list, you probably saw a lot of stuff that's going on with me. But the to-do list is in there this morning as well. So I'm going to try to get an early start on that because I really want to go shoot that 308 today. But I'm pretty sure that range is packed to the gills right now. So maybe I'll just give the dogs a walk at the dog park across the street. Isn't that weird? Gun range on one side of the street, dog park on the other. Whatever. So I'm going to start playing this because it is an abbreviated show this week, and I apologize for that, but I just got a lot to do, and I've got very little time to do it. It's a gorgeous day outside, and I'm planning on using it. Maybe the sunlight will cheer me up a bit. So I want to thank you all for watching. I would encourage you to maybe share this with others who don't know that we're doing it yet. And like I said before, if you want to join the show, email me. If you want to join the server, email me. If you want to be part of the community, email me. It's all there below. Cut and paste it. It's not a fake address. I will answer it. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you, hopefully in full capacity, next Saturday. Later.